3, 2, 1. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're 12-1, but have allowed a lot of sacks this season.
Yeah, 35.
35.
Which is a lot.
Especially when we consider that their starting left tackle, DJ Humphries, just suffered a hamstring injury.
It happened in their Week 14 win against the Los Angeles Chargers.
And the severity of this is unknown until they get those MRI results back. So how concerned should Chiefs fans be about this latest injury?
I think they should be very concerned.
Okay.
Humphries was brought in to solidify the offensive line, and now it's unclear how long he'll be out. It definitely raises some serious questions about their Super Bowl aspirations. I mean, their offensive line has been a concern all season.
It has.
And, they signed Humphries in the offseason hoping he'd bring stability.
Yeah. He had those 9 seasons with the Arizona Cardinals.
Exactly. But so far, his time in Kansas City has been riddled with injuries. This hamstring injury could be a major setback.
So let's dive a little deeper into those 35 sacks that they've allowed this season. I mean, that's more than they allowed in all of the previous year.
Right.
It's a pretty alarming number, especially considering where those sacks are coming from. A lot of them are coming from the interior line, not necessarily just from the edge.
Yeah, and that's the part that is concerning.
It is.
It's not just the raw number of sacks. It's the timing and the types of pressure that Mahomes has been facing.
Yeah, you see him getting hit almost immediately after the snap, and it just disrupts the entire rhythm of the offense.
And when you have a quarterback who likes to extend plays and create outside the pocket like Mahomes, that interior pressure becomes even more problematic.
We saw that pressure in their recent game against the Chargers. They won, but they allowed those 3 sacks. And Mahomes was under duress for a lot of the game.
Yeah, it felt like they were hanging on by a thread, even against a team that hasn't been a defensive powerhouse this year.
So the Chargers game really kind of exposed the Chiefs' vulnerability.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, they were lucky to get away with a victory.
Mm-hmm.
And I think against tougher opponents in the playoffs, that kind of performance from the offensive line is not going to be enough.
It won't.
That margin for error shrinks dramatically when you get to the postseason.
Absolutely.
So what can they realistically do at this point in the season to address this problem? Their immediate concern has to be finding a suitable replacement for Humphries while they await the MRI results.
Right.
I mean, their backup tackle, Wanya Morris, stepped in against the Chargers.
He did.
And he had a decent showing, but he was benched earlier in the season for inconsistency.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Morris. His performance against the Chargers was encouraging, but it's just one game.
It is.
Can he maintain that level of play?
Right.
Can he be a reliable option for the rest of the season?
Yeah, because his earlier benching kind of suggests that there were concerns.
There were.
About his technique, maybe.
Right.
Or his ability to handle the mental part of the position.
It could be either.
So what are their options? I mean, they could move guard Joe Thuney to left tackle.
They could.
He played that position earlier in his career with the New England Patriots.
He did.
And that would then create a vacancy at guard. But they do have some depth there.
They do.
And they could potentially shuffle things around.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Moving Thuney to left tackle isn't a seamless solution.
I don't think so either.
I mean, he's been a Pro Bowl caliber guard in Kansas City. He's developed a strong rapport with Creed Humphrey at center. That interior chemistry is really crucial for both run blocking and pass protection.
It is.
And if you disrupt that, it could have unintended consequences.
Yeah. And you also have to consider that Thuney hasn't played left tackle regularly in several years.
Right.
And it's a completely different scheme in Kansas City than it was when he was in New England.
Exactly.
So it seems like they're in a bit of a difficult position here. They need to find a way to protect Mahomes.
They do.
But they also don't want to disrupt the chemistry of an offensive line that, while struggling, still has some proven performers.
Yeah, it's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
The Chiefs have a lot of talent on offense, but their Super Bowl hopes really hinge on keeping Mahomes healthy and giving him time to work his magic.
And if they can't find a solution to this offensive line issue.
If they can't, it could derail their entire season.
So what are some of the potential solutions that they could explore here? If Humphries' injury is significant, they can't simply rely on hoping Morris develops into a consistent starter, or that Thuney can seamlessly transition back to left tackle.
Right. They're going to have to be proactive. If Humphries is out for an extended period, they're going to have to explore every avenue, including looking outside the organization for potential solutions.
Because you're talking about the free agent market.
The free agent market, or potential trades, even if it means parting with valuable assets.
Okay, so let's look at that free agent market first. Are there any realistic options available that could provide the stability and experience that they need at left tackle?
The free agent market at this point in the season, it's usually pretty thin,
Yeah.
especially when you're looking for starting caliber offensive linemen.
Right.
Teams just don't like to let go of reliable players at this point. And a lot of times, those who are available, they might have injury concerns or some performance issues that led to their release.
It's like everyone's playing this high-stakes game of chess,
Mm.
with their roster trying to anticipate moves and counter moves as the season goes on. Every decision has a ripple effect, and finding the right fit at the right time can be a real challenge for these teams,
It can.
especially when you're talking about a team like the Chiefs who are in a win-now mode, and they have a quarterback who gives them a legitimate chance to win a Super Bowl every year.
Every year.
But this situation really highlights how fragile success can be in the NFL.
Absolutely.
It really underscores how every position on the roster matters.
It does.
You can have a generational talent at quarterback,
Yeah.
but if you can't protect him, it puts a ceiling on what you can accomplish as a team.
It does.
The offensive line is often overlooked,
Hmm.
but it's the foundation upon which everything else is built. So let's shift gears for a moment,
Okay.
and let's talk about Andy Reid, the Chiefs head coach. He's known for his offensive creativity and his ability to adjust his scheme to fit the personnel that he has.
He is.
Do you think he might have some tricks up his sleeve to help mitigate this offensive line issue, at least in the short term?
Oh, I absolutely think Andy Reid has some tricks up his sleeve.
Good.
He is one of the most innovative offensive minds in NFL history. He's constantly evolving his scheme, and he's always looking for ways to gain an edge.
So how do you think that's going to translate on the field? What are some things that he might do?
Well, he might incorporate more quick passes, screens, rollouts, things to get the ball out of Mahomes' hands quicker,
Okay.
reduce the pressure on that offensive line.
Yeah. Could he also utilize more tight ends and running backs and pass protection?
He could.
Creating extra blockers
Essentially, yeah.
to help chip away at those pass rushers and give Mahomes a little bit more time to survey the field.
He's done that in the past,
He has.
especially when he's faced with injuries on the offensive line.
It's not ideal,
It's not.
but it's a way to adapt
It is.
and to try to minimize the impact of a weakness. So the Chiefs really are fortunate to have such a strong coaching staff, especially during a challenging time like this.
They are.
It's going to be interesting to see how they approach these next few games, particularly their upcoming matchup against the Denver Broncos.
Oh, yeah.
They have a really formidable defense.
They do.
How do you think they match up against that Broncos defense?
Well, the Broncos always present a tough challenge
They do,
for the Chiefs.
especially in the trenches.
Yeah. Their defensive line is strong,
Hmm?
led by Von Miller,
Oh, yeah, he's a beast.
one of the most fearsome pass rushers in the league.
So that game is going to be a real test for the Chiefs' offensive line.
It is.
Regardless of who's playing left tackle, I think it's going to be a measuring stick game for them,
I agree.
and it could have major implications for their playoff seeding.
Yeah, the AFC West is always a battle,
Always.
and every game within the division has added significance.
Absolutely.
And the Broncos, despite some ups and downs this season, they're still a team that can give anyone trouble,
Yeah.
especially at home.
So this whole situation with the Chiefs' offensive line, it's really added another layer of intrigue
Yes,
to what was already shaping up to be a compelling playoff race.
absolutely.
It's a reminder that in the NFL, things can change in an instant,
They can.
and that injuries are an unfortunate part of the game. Every team has to deal with them.
They do.
But it's how you respond to those challenges that ultimately defines your season.
It really does.
So the Chiefs are facing a critical juncture in their season. They have a talented roster, a brilliant coach, and a quarterback who can carry them to a championship. But they have this glaring weakness that, if not addressed, could derail their Super Bowl dreams.
It's true.
So it's going to be fascinating to see how they handle this situation and what moves they make in the coming weeks. The next few games are going to be really telling, and we'll have a much clearer picture of their Super Bowl chances as we head into the final stretch of the season.
We will.
It really feels like the Chiefs are at a crossroads here.
They are.
I mean, they have all the pieces in place for another Super Bowl run,
Yeah.
but this offensive line situation, it could be their Achilles heel.
It could be.
The difference between a sack and a completion, a win and a loss, can often come down to the performance of that offensive line.
It can.
It's the position that often goes unnoticed when things are going well.
Right.
But when it's not, it becomes glaringly obvious.
It does.
I think fans, they tend to focus on the skill positions,
They do.
the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers. But the offensive line is the unsung hero of any successful offense.
It is.
I mean, they do the dirty work in the trenches. They're battling in anonymity while the stars get the headlines. But within the league, their importance is never underestimated.
Never.
Coaches and general managers. They know that you can't win consistently without a solid offensive line.
You can't.
It's a bit like the foundation of a house. You can have the most beautiful exterior, but if the foundation is weak, that whole structure is vulnerable.
Exactly.
And the Chiefs have been trying to shore up their offensive line for a few seasons now, but they just haven't been able to find that consistent solution at left tackle.
It's a tough spot to fill.
It is.
You need a unique blend of size, strength, athleticism, and technique.
Not to mention the mental toughness to face some of the most physically imposing athletes in the world week after week.
It's not for everybody.
It's interesting how the perception of the offensive line has changed over the years. It used to be a position where brute strength was the primary attribute.
Right. It was all about just being the biggest and strongest guy out there.
Right. But now it's much more nuanced. Offensive linemen need to be agile enough to handle speed rushers, intelligent enough to decipher complex blitz packages, and technically sound enough to maintain leverage against those powerful defensive linemen.
Yeah. The evolution of defensive schemes has forced offensive linemen to become more versatile, more adaptable.
It's a demanding position, both physically and mentally.
It is.
And it's a position that often gets overlooked until something goes wrong.
And then everybody's pointing fingers.
And the Chiefs are finding that out the hard way right now.
They are.
This situation with Humphries' injury, it's really exposed a weakness
It has.
that could have serious consequences for their Super Bowl aspirations.
It could.
So it's a real wake-up call for a team that has been so dominant in recent years.
They need to address this, and they need to do it quickly.
They do.
They need to find a solution that gives them not only short-term stability, but long-term viability.
And their next few games are really going to be crucial
They are.
in determining their course of action.
Absolutely, if they can weather the storm. Find a way to protect Mahomes. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs.
But if they continue to struggle with pass protection, it could be a recipe for an early exit.
It could.
Well, it's been great talking about this. This offensive line situation is definitely going to be a key storyline
It is.
to watch as the season unfolds.
It could determine their fate.